like to mention our special guests that have joined us this morning. Representative John Bell Edwards, Senator Fred Mills. We'd also like to thank the media for attending and make discussion with today.
Oh, I did. But Representative Pierre. Sorry, I'm speaking over applause. I apologize. Thank the media for attending. I see some representatives from the University of Louisiana, Lafayette, including some of our students. And I wanted to mention that Acadiana Open Channel is filming this morning's event. So if someone wasn't able to attend, at some point they will be able to view it. The Power of Public Education Lafayette is a nonprofit group organized to advocate for effective public schools in Lafayette Parish. We're committed to working toward understanding what makes great public schools and an effective school system. Power Public Education Lafayette has been busy facilitating forums on charter schools, Act 1, school performance scores, and accountability system and standardized tests. We continue to monitor charter activity in Lafayette, and we've created a media platform through social media that facilitates a local and regional conversation on the state of our schools. Please check out our Facebook page. It's open and wonderful discussions happen there. Today, our legislative breakfast is an opportunity for us to gather, discuss, and let our representatives know that we care and we are committed to working with them to advance policy that supports our children and our public school system. On your tables, you'll see an outline of specific bills that have been filed thus far, as well as a list of the legislators that make up the House and Senate Education Committees. We encourage you to take these with you, keep them handy, and join us in calling and emailing our legislators this session. During the first part of the program, we will outline people's agenda for the upcoming session. We will then provide an opportunity for each legislator here to share their thoughts on issues facing legislators this session with regard to public education. Lastly, we will open the floor to comments and questions. And so first up is Kathleen Espinoza, a member of our executive board.
Thank you. Certainly a big part of our agenda is charter schools, in particular Type 2 charter schools, which are the charter schools that, of course, have opened in Lafayette Parish. So in October of 2013, Bessie authorized 5 charter schools in Lafayette Parish. The approval of these schools occurred after a supermajority of the Lafayette Parish School Board voted to deny the applications based on their own deliberation and consideration of the financial and systemic impact the schools would have on the over 30,000 children in our system. Bessie authorized charter schools are called Type 2 charters. Currently, in Louisiana school districts with an A, B, or C performance score, charter applicants must first apply to local districts as a Type 1 charter school. Only after they are denied can they appeal to Bessie for a Type 2 charter. For Lafayette Parish, the Type 2 charter schools have provided nothing innovative to the portfolio of choice we already provide through our extensive school board managed Schools of Choice program. The charter schools have limited enrollment to their schools because they do not provide transportation. There has been a loss of oversight of local tax dollars because the operations of the charter management companies directing the schools are not public, and they have had a profound impact on our local budget. This is our second year of a multi-million-dollar budget deficit, a direct result of the transfer of MFP dollars to the charter management companies. There is already discussion within the Lafayette Parish school system of closing one of our own neighborhood schools to offset the financial impact of the Bessie-imposed schools. People argues that there are good ways to charter schools, but current law works against the ability of local school boards to fully realize the potential of charter schools because of the way in which they can be approved, and most importantly, the way in which local tax dollars can be misappropriated to an ultimately inefficient and competitive charter management company. Here in Lafayette Parish, we don't want our children to compete with each other for a quality education. We want every school to be successful. We recognize that failure should not be an option. We need a state system that supports and nurtures best practices locally and doesn't systematically give up on local systems by imposing out-of-state charter companies that divide communities and the tax dollars they provide for the education of their children. House Bill 21, sponsored by Representative Edwards, provides for restrictions on BESI approval of Type 2 charter schools. The bill, as written, would prohibit BESI from considering Type 2 charter applications in A or B districts. This is not a bill to stop the approval of charter schools. Charter schools may still apply to A and B rated districts, but they will need to offer something truly innovative that fits the school system's needs in order to be approved by our local school board. It should remain a fundamental right for every citizen in Lafayette and in Louisiana to determine how tax dollars are spent for their local school systems, and the state should respect the fundamental right of local communities to determine the administration of public education for the children in their communities. We applaud Representative Edwards' efforts to limit BESI appeals, and we recognize that he sponsored a similar bill last year and was able to get it through the House Education Committee. We commit to doing what we can to support this bill and his effort to limit state intrusion into local systems. I would also like to recognize Representative Vincent Pierre's efforts to provide transportation to students attending charter schools in Lafayette Parish. While he was unsuccessful in the legislature last year, there is hope that BESI will authorize a policy change for Type 2 charters in the near future that would require Type 2 charters in Louisiana to provide transportation for their children. Thank you. And now I will hand it over to John St. Julian.
Thank you. Ppel urges the elimination, or at least the dramatic reduction or alteration, of the value-added measure in assessing teachers, schools, and districts. Sorry. This was a problem for me when I was a teacher. I didn't project properly, and this is one of those things that they talk to teachers about. So let me try again. Ppel urges the elimination, or at least the dramatic reduction or alteration, of value-added models, VAM, in assessing teachers, schools, and districts. Louisiana began using a value-added model as part of its teacher and school assessment in 2011. Usually shortened to its initials, VAM. VAM is a statistical model which takes student scores on a state-mandated achievement test and uses them to compute a value for the effectiveness of teachers, schools, and districts. This is similar to assessing doctors not by their professional actions in prescribing medicines and other treatments, but by whether their patients score well on some state-designed test of fitness and health that does not take into account their patients' individual difficulties and without regard to whether or not their patients actually make use of the doctor's advice. It is bad policy. And one of the outcomes of this bad policy is that it makes it difficult for a local system to recruit a high-quality workforce. Lafayette's experience with the state's evaluation program is illustrative of how unhappy teachers have become. Teachers' resignations doubled in 2012, from 81 to 164. Over the last 3 years, a full third of Lafayette's teacher force has left. These are truly disturbing numbers. On this issue of fairness, VAM grades teachers and schools on the test scores students make on the state-mandated annual test. They do not grade the actual performance of the teacher or the schools. Because students differ greatly in the resources that they bring to classrooms and schools, their scores alone do not reflect the actual value that teachers add to their students' success. Louisiana's VAM does not account for the continuing influence of non-school factors that research consistently demonstrates account for 70% of the variation in student achievement on standardized achievement tests. There is no more than 15% of that variation is attributable to the individual teacher in the classroom. The burden of a much larger problem falls disproportionately on teachers and schools. It is simply and clearly unfair. But this unfair situation has unintended consequences. because VAM is an unfair measure, which both ignores much of the real differences educators make in students' lives, and because it does not acknowledge that most of the variability in student test scores is outside the range of issues educators can affect. The false picture it paints causes large and destructive unintended consequences. We are not saying that people intend these consequences, but they are inevitable in our judgment. For instance, teachers are encouraged to focus solely on testable material to the loss of character building, encouragement, engagement building exercises that are important to educational outcomes like graduation rates and college persistence. This is something the research shows very clearly. Educational administrators are driven to choose curricula and materials that closely match the test content and structure and avoid material particular to the local community or issues that appeal to regional interest, strengths, or ethnicities. Principals are unhappy to understand that limiting the number of poor students or students with disabilities will actually improve their school scores to the detriment of those students' education. Ppel supports, first, the abandonment of the value-added measure to assess teachers in educational institutions, as the tool cannot be made a fair measure of educational activities that lead to student success, and because its unfair judgments of teachers in schools inevitably leads to policies which damage rather than support student success. Ppel does support teacher evaluation and believes that an excellent teacher evaluation system is possible. An excellent evaluation would adhere to the principles that professionals are best assessed locally by their peers and immediate superiors, that they be assessed on their own work rather than the work of others, and held responsible for only the influence of factors that they can directly affect. An appropriate assessment plan should include multiple measures of student progress, site-based peer review, classroom observations, the assessment of a wide range of student benefits, including retention and participation in the school community. It should also include provisions that encourage teacher support of the unique students in his or her classroom. Assessment should be visibly tied to teacher actions that can be improved, and a program that offers teachers a clear path towards that improvement. Senate Bill 32, offered by Senator Mills, makes using value-added models an option in the state teacher evaluation system rather than a legal requirement imposed by the legislature. The bill mandates the use of classroom observations and multiple quantitative measures of student success. It limits the use of value-added models to no more than 25% of a teacher's assessment rather than the current 50%. And it requires that special education, eligibility for free or reduced price meals, student attendance, and student discipline be accounted for in any VAM model. It also serves to equalize VAM-based requirements for charter and public schools. This bill would be a substantial improvement to current law for teachers especially, and Ppel supports this bill and will work for it in the legislature.
And I'd like to introduce Ann Burris, who will talk to us about our accountability system.
If I don't stumble on the court. Good morning. Ppel urges the Louisiana legislature to recognize that an immediate reevaluation of the Department of Education's existing accountability system is needed. The school performance score accountability measurement is inadequate, narrowly focused, and punitive. Since 1999, the Department of Education has determined school performance scores, or SPS, and since 2011 has used the SPS to produce a school letter grade. The department claims that letter grades clearly communicate the quality of school performance to families and the public. Therefore, Louisiana adopted letter grades A through F. That letter grades clearly communicate quality is disputable. In elementary schools, K through 6, 100% of the letter grade is based on student achievement on annual assessments in ELA, math, science, and social studies. This year, for the first time, student performance in grades 3 through 8 in ELA and math is being measured by the PARCC test, while science and social studies is still measured by the LEAP. In middle schools, grades 7 through 8, 95% of the school grade is based on student achievement on PARCC and LEAP, with the final 5% based on high school credits earned through the end of the student's 9th grade year. In high schools, 9 through 12, half of the school grade is based on student achievement, a quarter from scores on the ACT, and a quarter from scores on the state-mandated end-of-course assessments. And the other half of high school grades is based on two forms of graduation and credit-related calculations. And there's also a bonus point system that LDE uses to give points to some schools that show improvement with students who are academically behind. Yet, the school letter grade does not speak to the strengths of public schools in welcoming and teaching all children. Children who may come from families that struggle with poverty, who may have disabilities, or be English language learners. It does not account for magnet schools, gifted or talented programs, or extracurricular activities, or passionate parent involvement. It offers a shallow view of children as good test takers or not such good test takers. The current accountability system may penalize schools with a letter grade that fails to communicate quality, penalize teachers with an invalid VAM score, and penalize districts with a letter grade that compounds the error of school letter grades. Schools with repeated F grades assigned are at risk of being taken over as part of a recovery school district. An effective accountability system should use multiple factors to measure the effectiveness of schools and school districts. An accountability system that is useful to parents and educators should truly reflect the quality of education received by children in schools, not just a test score on a given day. An effective accountability system should include an evaluation of things such as class size, systems to identify at-risk students, student portfolios, programs to address the needs of every learner, high expectations of behavior and discipline, communication with parents and parent involvement, teacher retention and training, community engagement, and should include student and parent evaluation tools. Should a school's effectiveness be rated A through F based on a set of tests? We don't think so. Ppel urges a complete reevaluation of Louisiana's existing accountability system and would welcome legislation to do so. We ask that the legislature take up an accountability system reform bill this session. The PARCC test in ELA and math will be taken in 2 phases this year, in March and May, and it is part of up to 30 or more standardized tests and benchmark assessments that school children take each year. Many parents have tried the PARCC practice tests, which are available online, and are concerned about the poor quality of the test and are concerned about the ever-widening period of test prep surrounding the PARCC testing. Many parents believe that this degrades their children's school experience, and some parents are choosing to opt their children out, that is, refuse to allow them to take the PARCC test. At least 4,200 children at last count, over 1% of students eligible to take the test, were opted out statewide in March. As currently written in law and policy, parents opting their children out may affect the school letter grade because John White and the Bessie majority chose to retain the zero penalty. That is, an opted out student will be included in the calculation for school letter grade and assigned 0 points. Representative Henskins, House Bill 22, addresses the need to remove from the SPS calculation those students whose parents are choosing to opt them out of the PARCC test. Some school districts had a high percentage of students opted out, including Calcasieu Parish, which had a 15% opt-out rate. HB 22 prevents negative impacts towards schools like those in Calcasieu and ensures an SPS score reflects only the scores of those students taking the test by removing the zero penalty. And just as importantly, HB 22 prevents any negative impact of opt-outs on teacher evaluations and prevents any punishments towards children who are opted out, such as grade retention, depriving a child of honors or AP classes, or denying them extracurricular activities. We applaud Representative Henskins' efforts to prevent punitive impacts on students, teachers, and schools when a parent chooses to opt their child out of PARCC, and we commit to doing what we can to support this bill. And we ask that the legislature take up an accountability system reform bill this legislative session.
Thank you for the comments on people's positions, and thank you to all who've attended, and especially our elected officials. We appreciate your attending and sitting with our guests, and it's your turn, our elected officials, to come up and speak for a few minutes about your hopes and goals for public education issues during this legislative session. Any advice you have for citizens on how to be effective would be very welcome, I'm sure. Because we have 4 legislators here, we ask that you keep your comments to 3 minutes or so. We do have a timekeeper who'll give you a signal. Trying to be efficient this morning. About 20 seconds so you can wrap things up. So first up, we'll ask John Bell Edwards to speak with us. Thank you.
Thank you, and I appreciate the opportunity to be here this morning. I want to thank Kathleen for the invitation and all my colleagues here. You know, Fred was all excited about Common Core and the park test, but he thought it was going to be the parks test. And when he realized that he wasn't going to be in control of it, I think he lost his support. Yeah. Very quickly, House Bill 21, it was talked about this morning. I think it's an important measure to restore local control over education to a greater extent than we have today. And I would ask all of you to really take a look at that bill. We were able to get it off of the House floor and into the Senate committee last year. Obviously, this year we need to move it further. But it's not an anti-charter school bill. It's just readjusting who gets to make the final decision. And where you have a good performing school district under our accountability system, it seems to me that district ought to have the autonomy to make those decisions. Otherwise, the local voters and taxpayers cannot hold their school board members accountable for the way money is being spent, for which schools get opened. And by the way, if they are forced to accept charter schools that they don't want, they're going to lose funding for the programs that got them the A and B grade to begin with. And so this is about autonomy for districts that perform well. It's about local control. And many of the people who oppose Common Core, and by the way, I'm one of them, they do it because they say, well, Common Core erodes local control. But those people most often support all these charter schools. And so I don't think they can have it both ways. Either we're for local control or we're not. I want to thank the Bessie Board, and we have a lot of BB here today, because for the first time since 2008, the Bessie Board has actually asked for more money on a per-student basis in the MFP. It's half of an inflationary increase, but at least that half is more than has happened in the past. And so hopefully we'll be able to find a way to find that money. But with a $1.6 billion budget problem, it is going to be extremely difficult. But if you don't ask for it, you know you're not going to get it. So I want to thank you for your work. And finally, with respect to testing is driving so much in schools, and with limited resources, and if everything about that school and that teacher and that district relies on testing, then you can bet that the resources are not going to flow to areas that are not tested. My wife is here with me today. She's an elementary music teacher in the Tangipahoa Parish school system. And so what we're seeing is a de-emphasis on things like art and music and PE, guidance counselors and librarians, because those things are not being tested. But at the end of the day, our kids are not commodities. They're not widgets. We need to give them a well-rounded education so that they can succeed, not just in being a worker for somebody else one day, but having a good, high quality of life so that they can read the paper and understand what's going on. So thank you. Contact me. I don't see anybody waving at me, but I think it's been about 3 minutes. Contact me if I can be of assistance to you. And finally, and I hate to be too negative, but part of the problem that we're having in Louisiana today is we have a superintendent of education who they went out of state to find him. He doesn't have the qualifications to be an assistant principal at a local elementary school. We can do better than that in Louisiana. We really can, but we're going to have to make better decisions about who we elect and who we put in control of those types of decisions, which, by the way, is why I'm running for governor this year. Thank you all very much.
Thank you. And that was right at 3 minutes. Perfect. Senator Mills?
I want to be quick, but I want to thank each and every one of you for what you do. And I think I just need to tell you a real life story instead of telling you anything, because you have the theoretical world and then you have the practical world, and you are in the practical world. Right before the big educational reform vote, I was called up to the 4th floor, and it was like, it's time to vote for the governor's package. So right before that, I went to New Iberia Senior High School, and I tried teaching civics for the whole day, and I had to go take a nap after. I was so tired. So I know what y'all do. I had to sleep. But one of the things that I can remember was that New Iberia Senior had a forum with 400 teachers, and one teacher raised her hand, and she said, I just want to tell you something. With the assessment, with everything going on, we did some mock kind of drills. And in May of this year, I was the most effective teacher in Iberia Parish, and I was awarded Teacher of the Year. Said they kind of did a mock, I guess, a what-if drill, and in October, with a new class, I was the most ineffective teacher. She said, how did that happen in May that they gave me a plaque, and in October, I probably need to go to my house? So that's when I realized, and I have to thank Lottie Beebe and the St. Martin Parish team and the Iberia Parish team, because I'll go meet with them and understand that the answers are right here. The answers are right here. The answers are not in a think tank of what-ifs. So I'm proud to carry some legislation on your behalf for the value-added model. It was a forum that was held in St. Martin Parish, and at the forum, it was basically told by the HR departments, we cannot get science teachers and physics teachers and math teachers because they can go do other things. So for what you do, I want to thank each and every one of you for what you've done, what you continue to do. And I'm a product of the Brobridge Senior High model. And my biggest accomplishment, yep, thank you very much. And I hate to brag on myself, but in the 5th grade, I won a blue ribbon in 4-H on how to peel an Irish potato. And I thought to myself, I got a future, and then they came up with the food processor, and I'm back at work. Thank you all very much.
Representative Landry.
Story of my life. I was somebody like that. I was hoping that it'd be Vincent Pierre so I can get some time to recover, but I mean, hey. Wait. Listen, I really appreciate, this is my 2nd year coming in and talking to the group, and I appreciate the opportunity. I wish I had the silver bullet to cure all the ills that we face in this state, including education, health care, and our crime and our incarceration rate. But I don't. And when I do, I rely on experts, the subject matter experts, like people like you, to give me information to make decisions, because you're the stakeholders, you're in the trenches, and you're making those decisions that are best for our community and our state. And I promised myself today, because my critic says I'm a little too forceful, I'm too rigid, I talk too, I'm passionate, I'm too passionate. So I said today I'm gonna just be calm. But the last time I checked, this is still America. It's still the land of the free, for people to have ideas. And when someone whispered, or with somebody trailing John Bell and filming everything that's being said and what's being, as a matter of record, I guess, to use in a political campaign, it aggravates me. It aggravates the hell out of me, because this is still America, and we still have ideas, and we still are to be respected for our differences. So, John Bell, thank you for coming to Lafayette today, and thank you for standing up. Thank you for being a veteran and fighting for our country. And again, this is still America. But again, I'm a public. I support public education. There's no doubt about that. There's no question. Terry Lander is my name. I am running again, and I will have opposition. But I also commend Fred Mills, because when you look around this room and you see who's not here, and the decisions that are made for Louisiana shouldn't be made by Alec, and who has blamed our public. It shouldn't be made with people who have out-of-state license plates on their cars, who all got contracts with the van lines to move out. I mean, it's very simple. And for the people that drink the Kool-Aid and not vote for what's best or what they know is right, but to vote because there's a committee assignment or for their parking spot, it's just crazy. It's crazy. We have some great minds in the legislature. We have some great people. We have some great leaders. And we get influenced by special interests and people who have no stake in our community. I'll continue to fight as long as my district allows me to fight. I will continue to stand up and I will continue to be passionate about what I believe in. So I thank you for what you do every day, and keep doing it, and I think we're going to get out of this mess eventually. Thank you.
And Representative Pierre.
Well, they did save the best for last. I am indeed a member of the short caucus because you see I had to bring the podium down. But I want to also thank you all for what you do and for the guidance and the information that you bring to me each year on the ill wills of our public education. And I can honestly tell you that I am doing everything I think is right for our students as well as our teachers. But we've got a lot of issues that are coming up. There's a bill that's going to be in my committee that deals with payroll deduction for public employees. And they want to eliminate payroll deduction for public employees. But they don't talk about United Way. They don't talk about state troopers. They talk about public employees. This bill was designed to silence our teachers from coming to the state capitol. And I think it's appalling because you guys have the right to speak and to say what you need to say that concerns the children in our community. I sit on that committee. Last year, we killed that bill in the committee. Keep your close eye on this year because the bill, this particular bill and the committee has changed. And I want you to look at the players that are on that committee. I want you to look up each one, and that's the labor committee is going to come in labor. I need you guys fighting for us and fighting for the teachers in public education in that committee because that particular bill is going to be crucial. We want to have our voice, and I'm going to be there to have that voice, hopefully, to help kill that bill in that committee. We dealt last year, I know you heard that we dealt last year with the public transportation for charter schools or transportation for charter schools. Charter schools eliminated transportation for children. But they're getting the MFP money that includes transportation. It was an issue of mine, and I asked for a study. And I have to applaud the Department of Education. The study came in. Bessie Board took a look at it, and in 2017-18, charter schools are going to now provide transportation for children. And I think it's important. If we're going to do public things with public money, then we need to do all of the things that are necessary. I'm going to continue to fight. I ask that you guys continue to come to the Capitol. Last year, a year before, you guys were not allowed to come in through certain doors, and there was a whole lot of issues. I'm going to make sure that we are letting our speaker know that everyone needs to come into the Capitol and voice their issues and concern. And again, I have a whole lot that I can say, and I'm passionate. Not as passionate as my big colleague up there, but I'm passionate about public education. I have 3 children, one at Lafayette High, one at Prairie Elementary, and one at Acadiana High. And all 3 of them come home and tell Dad the issues and concerns that they face. So as a public servant, I have to make sure that I protect not only the interests of my children, but all children in our district and in our schools. All of the schools that I represent, I would say 90% of the schools in my district are failing schools since I've got elected. There's an issue. It's got to be resolved before I leave as a state legislator. We've got to resolve these issues. And again, listen, I thank y'all for hosting this event. I'm going to be working every day to ensure that public education is saved from the fires that they have to deal with. And you can contact me at any given time, and I'll be willing to listen. And again, thank you. It hasn't been given a number yet, but it's going to be coming, and it's going to be coming to the Labor Committee. Thank you.
Thank you so much for sharing your ideas on public education and on the legislative session. We found last year that the questions and comments from the floor were incredibly thought-provoking and interesting, and we'd like to encourage you to do so again this year. We ask that you please direct your question to a specific speaker, whether it's from a member of Power Public Education Lafayette. Remember, Kathleen talked about charter schools, John spoke to the teacher evaluation system and value-added model, and Ann spoke about accountability. So those are the three position statements we made this year, and or to the legislators, to Representative Edwards, Senator Mills, Representative Landry, or Representative Pierre. We are going to ask that you keep your question and our comment concise, 30 seconds. It's a long time if you use it wisely, and we'll give you a signal to wrap it up because we'd like to hear from as many folks as possible. And will someone help me keep time? Yeah. Okay. So, does someone have a question or a comment? And sure, I'm sorry. Dr. Lottie Beebe. 3 minutes. Thanks. Sorry about that.
Good morning, and I want to say to you, Representative, you said they saved the best for last. Well, obviously that's me. No, seriously, I appreciate our legislative delegation, our Acadiana legislative delegation, and I truly appreciate the bills that you're sponsoring this session. As a superintendent of a local school district, we are challenged to find quality teachers, and we know what the research says. The quality teacher makes the difference, and those quote unquote reformers in Baton Rouge, I wish they would be open-minded to and certainly visit classrooms to see firsthand that the challenges our educators face. You know, little Johnny, who is in a home environment is in a home environment without essentials, waking up not knowing, if the parents will be home in the afternoon, so there are great challenges from these students. And I just feel that, those who won't reform, we all want reform, but we want responsible and sustainable reform. And so it's imperative upon us to support our legislators. And oftentimes when you go to Baton Rouge during the session, there aren't many people there. You took the time this morning to come to this very important event, and I challenge you to go to Baton Rouge to attend the sessions when these bills are on the floor for debate, and you need to be at the table. I'm suggesting that you're at the table to show support, because this is what it's going to take. And I applaud this organization, Ppel, for bringing the issues to light. And we are, again, I will say, we are for responsible reform, and we want to be at the table. We don't need business and industry making the decisions that impact the classroom unless they are in the classroom observing firsthand what is needed in our classrooms. We are willing to work together to make the best for the best situation for our students. I embrace competition. And certainly, give us the resources that are needed. And I can tell you from a superintendent's perspective, every time someone walks in my door, I cringe, because usually they're asking for additional resources, and the school board doesn't have the funding to address those requests. So we're in this together. We're in support of public education, our traditional systems, but we have to stand together. We have to have a presence in Baton Rouge. Look, someone referenced the committee in place. So if they don't see us, if they don't hear from us, they think we're satisfied. That's what I often hear. So I implore you to have a presence in Baton Rouge. Thank you.
And I can speak to the fact that at the university we are taking a hit in our teacher education program. Our numbers are declining. But we have a wonderful table sitting right next to you there of young pre-service teachers. Most of them will be student teaching next semester. So I thank them for coming. Hope to hear from them. So y'all speak to Dr. Beebe and the other, and Mr. Kramer, and principals and superintendents that are here today. All right, I see a comment in the back.
Sir, for Mr. John Bell. I loved what you had to say, and just it was interesting that you I didn't realize that you had such displeasure with the state superintendent. The current governor also shares the same kind of mindset. That guy is very qualified. Just so everyone kind of knows how it went down. Oh, okay, well, I'm not here to defend him. And I'm on the team of public education in Lafayette. For those of you who don't know me, my name is Tony Ppel. I'm a product of Lafayette Parish Schools. My father taught for 43 years in Lafayette Parish Schools, so I have a little bit of knowledge on the subject. Is that fair?
I'm just saying they had to change the rules.
Okay, well, just so you know a little bit about Mr. White, everybody knows who the President of the United States is, Barack Obama. Does anyone know who the National Superintendent of Education is? I bet someone in this room does. Arnie Duncan, okay? Arnie Duncan met Mr. White a long time ago, and it was, okay. My question for you is this, John Paul. What are we going to do? If you get to be the next governor, what are we going to do? I don't like Common Core. I think it's a horrible idea. Kids in New York don't learn like kids in South Louisiana. Kids in AD don't learn like people in Lafayette. What are we going to do?
First of all, there's too much testing in our schools today. Common Core doesn't do anything but perpetuate that. I don't believe that we ought to have standards that come from outside the state that are not vetted here by Louisiana-based education parents, and make sure that they truly are appropriate for our kids. And then after we get our standards right, we'll figure out the assessment. But we should stop testing our kids so often, because our teachers and our superintendents are all focused on those tests, and we're robbing the kids of the joy of learning and teachers of the joy of teaching. Now, with respect to John White, I've heard John White in my committee, because I've been on the education committee now, this is my 8th year. He has said things like, there is no data to suggest that kids learn any better in a classroom when they're taught by a teacher who goes through a college of education, as opposed to a teacher who can get a 4-year degree in anything, and then they can spend 6 or 9 weeks being taught to teach. Now, when you've got a superintendent of education making those kind of statements, I mean, carry it through its logical conclusion. We have cut, when I say we, in the state of Louisiana, $700 million a year out of higher education. If our colleges of education are worthless, why aren't we getting rid of them? You know, there's this big disconnect. Clearly he's wrong about that. Clearly he's wrong when he says that certified teachers don't teach any better than uncertified teachers. But they have to say that because charter schools want the ability to hire 0 certified teachers if they want to. And in fact, they have that ability in the law today. So we just need common sense. We need common sense in leadership.
Thank you. Question here?
Yeah,
Or comment?
I have a comment and a question for. I have a comment and a question for Kathleen. My comment, I don't know if this is true, but I'd like you to comment on my comment and then have a question. My comment is, it would seem to me that there would be some students that would be more expensive to educate, students who need remediation, who might be a couple of years behind in math and reading, and or maybe they have chronic behavioral issues. My question is, in terms of the charter schools, especially for-profit charter schools, is there any study or indication that they are avoiding working with the more expensive students to educate? And how is that affecting the public school system, the remainder of the public school system, if the more expensive students to educate aren't going to the charters?
Okay. So I guess there are a couple ways to answer this. I mean, and I'm certainly not the expert, so if anybody wants to add to the discussion, please do. But I think the answer, the short answer is yes. I think that the way charter schools are designed, at least the ones in Lafayette Parish, is they do either unintentionally discriminate because they, first of all, they don't provide transportation. So you have families with limited means that really it's not a choice for them. That's not a choice for those students. Secondly, our public school system in Lafayette Parish offers a broad spectrum of special education services, regular education services, and I think through an economies of scale, we can do it fairly efficiently. So it doesn't make economic sense for a school that is servicing 500 kids to hire a special education teacher for, say, someone with a hearing disability. So there is, I think, indirectly, this sort of discrimination against students with more expensive needs. I'm not sure if anybody wants to add to that.
I'm Debbie Moe. I'm president of the Louisiana Association of Educators. And I just have a comment, actually 2 comments. First of all, I want to thank Lottie for all of her work on the DESI board. She and 3 of her colleagues on the DESI board fight diligently, tooth and nail, for public education. And they bring to light a lot of things that would not come to light otherwise. I also want to thank all of our legislators who work here. LAE is taking the stance that we have tried with John White and we have tried with the DESI board. I want to say that our 4 friends on the DESI board have done their best, but the vote is always 7-4. We have come to the conclusion that the only way we're going to get a better environment for public education, public students, is for a lot of the things that we need to be legislated. And I want to thank each one of you who are bringing these bills that are going to bring the environment for public education to a higher level and allow our teachers to do what they do best, and that's to teach the children. And I want to pledge to you that we are solidly behind you, and you can call on us at any time for your help, for our help.
Thank you.
Hi, I'm Chip Crowley. I'm the president of the Acadiana Patriots, and all I want to do is invite you to go to Louisiana Core, CORE.org. We are having Parents' Day at the Capitol on April 29th. Also on that website, student pledges. I'm not going to go into this. Go to the website. We are organizing. Bobby said we need to get the people there. We're working. And also I'm on Facebook. And at our next meeting, the Acadiana Patriots have some young college people from New Orleans called Back to the Future. I get the chills. I've heard them talk twice. And they read their mission statement, and I was almost in tears. And I said, "How did they get that smart so young?" So you need to come. April 9th is our next meeting, and that's at the Robichaud Center. But anyways, go to LouisianaCore.org. The information is there for April 20th.
Thank you. Thank you.
Hello, my name's Jennifer Guillory, and I'm a recently retired teacher, and one word is why I retired, and that is testing. My 7th graders, we counted, took 67 standardized tests last year. 67, 40 before they ever got to Iowa. People don't know that they do not know that. And I started a group, Facebook group, Teacher Savings Solutions, and it's a nonprofit. I'm not plugging it at all, but I do want to say this, and I guess it's a comment. Teachers are afraid. They are afraid to speak up. I've seen it over and over again. I cannot tell you how many people private message on Teacher Savings Solutions and said, please bring up music and art. We can't take that away from the kids. Please talk about. So, you ask for teachers to come and talk to you, but they're afraid. And actually, there were teachers in Lafayette Parish that lost their jobs for speaking up, and knew creating a hostile working environment is a reason for dismissal. So it's a real thing. And I would like to say one thing and ask you on the Education Committee about if we can get away from Common Core and go to GLEs. I saw some research or some comments saying that teachers could get in committees during the summer and pick and do that. Teachers don't want to develop curriculum. There are curriculum experts that develop curriculum. That's what they went to school for. Teachers want to teach. So, thank you. Pick a good curriculum and let us teach it. And there are textbook companies that'll tell you how good they are and have wonderful peripherals that come with what you purchase. We want to teach. That's what we want to do. So that's all. I don't know. I don't want to question.
Thank you.
Mike Kramer, principal, St. Marville Senior High School. I don't only have 3 minutes, but and I have so many topics that I could really go over and discuss.
No, you've got about
30 seconds. 30 seconds? Okay, well, I want to talk about letter grades real quickly for schools. As principal of St. Martinville Senior High School, it is a high poverty school. We are currently rated a C. At one point we were B. We were a D at one point also too, but none of that really reflects the quality of the education that the kids that get at our school. My valedictorian has come through all the schools of St. Martin Parish, St. Martinville High, St. Martinville Primary, the ELC, the junior high, the high school. She scored a 34 on her ACT. She's got more scholarships than you can shake a stick at. And she lives in a place where John White has never been. Because I know I drop her off all the time, because whenever she has an issue to go to, an event to go to, she does not have a parent that goes with her. It is a school that brings her there and takes her back and forth. And I can just say this unequivocally, that letter grades are simply a reflection of the poverty, that the poverty level that school serves. Because that's what we do. Schools serve the community, and I don't believe in failing schools. I believe that schools that serve the community. Thank you.
Thank you.
I have just a small concern with the House Bill 22. I am a currently retired teacher myself because of testing. I got out of the profession. Something that I love to do. I love to work with kids. I love to teach. But I went and got my master's in history thinking that I was going to teach the subject that I love. Instead, I was teaching them to memorize. And I was very good at teaching them to memorize. But it was very painful to do. The House Bill 22 says that there's not going to be any penalties, right, for schools whose students do not participate in spring testing. My concern is, and that's great because they shouldn't be penalized. My concern is that are you going to have teachers that then approach students who they know are going to score, test poorly, and say, why didn't you look into this opting out, right? And so I think the main focus here should be to reduce the amount of testing, right? So that was just the one concern I had with that, because as a teacher, there's a lot of pressure to get students to pass these tests. In fact, that kind of becomes the whole main focus, which is really sad. And so teachers are willing to do just about anything they can to keep their jobs, right? And to be approved of, by their bosses. So, I mean, that's kind of, an escape route. So it's just something that needs to be addressed.
Very interesting point, and I think what that points out is the law of unintended consequences. You try to make a fix, you think you're doing the best you can, and there's a loophole, there's an unintended consequence. And often when you make a system very complicated, you end up with a thing. So yes, I hear a lot of people calling for a better thought out, simpler, less gainable system all around. And that's a great point, thanks for sharing.
Many years ago, when I was in elementary school, one of my classmates was Jim, and I remember in the 5th grade, Jim was still just reading at the 1st grade level. And he was really struggling, and he did have some intelligence issues, but he could learn, and he was in the mainstream class with us. My 5th grade teacher got special permission to get 2nd grade textbooks for him. She spent time with him, teaching him, so that he really did begin to read. And finally, he began to read, and you can just see Jim blossom. Now, I just heard a really poignant interview with a 4th grade teacher, a former 4th grade teacher, who was saying that her principal told her she was spending too much time with the students who are failing and are always going to be failing. A failing student in our system is worth 0. And if they never progress to a D, you don't get the bonus, the lousy little 10 bonus points for getting them up to a D. Her principal told her, drop those kids, drop the time that you're working on that. Our school needs a letter grade, and that student is never going to get our grade. So they abandon, the system today gives the unintended consequence to abandon the most needy student. That is just wrong. Could you tell us what can we do to change this?
Well, you know, I felt like I was in church and I felt like you were walking on my shoes. And I was one of those problem kids in school. And I don't know where you, but I have a parent and a family network that is not letting me fail, not letting me take the road that a lot of families are allowing their kids to take. I heard the principal talk about poverty, and I hear a lot of solutions, a lot of problems, but no one is equating the poverty rate in the state as it relates to education, as it relates to incarceration, as it relates to health care. I do a little thing I go to mass, and I go to a little store and drink coffee. And you sit there and have buses, kids catch buses. Kids 12 years old, this is a story that just happened. Kids take the bus and one of the parents called. Here's the water tank there. One of the parents got off and they talked to their kid. It scared me. And then he hammered the kid. And it really, it still bothers me. But that's the same kid we expect to go to school, to behave, to be with his colleagues. I mean, where these children are caught, and they're caught in a vacuum because parents are in many areas, in the poverty areas, and I come from an impoverished area. We've got to find a way to get parents involved in the children's education. And they require educating some of them, because some of them are illiterate. So, I mean, I don't believe any kid should be discarded or any kid cannot learn. But again, my good friend Fred is a pharmacist. When we give kids rhythm from the time they go to school until the time they're 18 years old, and we expect them to function like normal people. I mean, we have become a society of profit and pain and suffering. And you can talk about education everywhere. There's a profit margin in all of it. And until we take the profit out of the kids first, we're going to continue to have these problems. That's my humble opinion.
Yeah, you had your hand up earlier. Trying to.
My question is for Ms. B. Are you losing any students from St. Martin Parish to Lafayette Charter School?
Yes, about 51.
51 times $9,000 out of your, what's it, 9,000 per student out of your?
About, between 9 and 10, I would say roughly 9.
So that's $450,000 out of St. Martin Parish budget because your public school students are attending charter schools in Lafayette Parish.
Yes.
That's happening in other parishes as well. It's happening in the main parish. It's happening in other parishes. And so, I mean, there's no solution. There's no solution to that for the local system. Your public school students leave, they go to a charter school in another parish, and you got to send the money to that charter school.
Now, there is a lawsuit that was filed by Ppel Parish, and that's for B7815 and LAE. So we're praying that Ppel prevails in this suit. Ppel Parish.
Thank you. Any final comments or questions?
I want to address them because I think the loss of the teacher corps is devastating to our parishes, the number of teachers we're losing. And while I understand testing is so important, but what you do every day in the classroom, and when we have very good principals in place, and somebody heard me say I taught 999 years, and I've had some incredible principals and assistant principals. This
Steve.
My name is Stephen Dick. I'm a statistician. I've been here since 2000. I've been here in Lafayette since about 2006. The Ppel Center has served as a resource for the school districts, for the legislature, for the Department of Education, and for Bethel over the years. In the past couple of years, our total group of people that we have working at the center has dropped from 40 to 45 to about a dozen people right now because of the cutting budget for research. One of the things that is so valuable and that is so easily overlooked these days is the role of independent research and evaluation. We don't add new tests to the students. We're happy to use whatever tests that you choose to use to evaluate your students on. So what we can do is that we can come to data-driven evaluation to provide school districts, to provide the state with better information. I wish I was working for the Department of Education and could evaluate myself. But I have people in the university that evaluate what I do, and they do it independently of me. And that's what we do at the Ppel Center. And I think we need to get back to some of this kind of evaluation. We're a Louisiana group of people. We work for the University of Louisiana, Lafayette, and we work for the state of Louisiana, and we work here in the state of Louisiana. You can do this kind of evaluation, and it would provide real insight. I was in the trenches. I know I'm over. I was in the trenches in the early days of Ppel. When there was somebody running around with a little red book saying Ppel is a terrible test. And we talked to the teachers, and we talked to the evaluators, and we talked to the schools. And then we looked at how Ppel helped or hurt. And we weren't able to just say yes or no, but fine-tune the program. And this is the kind of thing that we can do over and over again in the future if we're given that kind of ability.
Thank you, Steve.
That you can't cut the budgets that way. I'm sorry.
Appreciate that. It's okay. All right, and we'll have two more comments to conclude, or questions.
And I've heard some of those concerns. In fact, just last night in Monica, the school districts I represent in Bessie District 3, and again, I told that individual that you report it to the local, the district superintendent, and then, of course, the Bessie member, and we'll have to take it up, we'll have to put it on add it to the Bessie agenda to address, because it is not in, I mean, the. Is there any way that we can give it to you to address, because she has not responded? I'll get the information from you and I'll address, because I do have that responsibility to be considered within my district. Thank you.
And I think we're gonna, okay, two more comments, and then we're gonna wrap up, although we invite you to finish up the food, and I'll make a closing statement, but Pat, you wanna say something?
One, I want to thank all the legislators for everything that they're doing, and I want to tell you ways to save some money. You do not have to rewrite the grade level
least you know what you're talking about.
Okay. One more comment, and then I have a quick closing. So, David.
My name is David Beard. I am a teacher. Started teaching in 1969. I'm retired from St. Landry Parish. I don't know how many of you get the opportunity to get out into the schools on a regular basis. We've talked about assessment, money, all these sorts of things, but one thing you need to remember, we have teachers out there who are working extremely hard and doing wonderful things on a daily basis. An F school, that to me, that grade doesn't mean a lot, because you still have teachers in there who are impacting students. Those teachers we need to hear more about them, and I see it all the time. I just don't forget our teachers.
Thank you. It looks like the bill that Representative Pierre was talking about is going to be HB 141. It also looks like there's a possibility that Representative Stuart Bishop from Lafayette is going to file another bill to try to also get that point in. So just as a watch out for that. You see the handouts on the tables. Please take them. Please get involved with people on social media. Stay involved with us. We have a web page as well. We have sign-in sheets here. We're happy to send you information. But stay involved with us at the legislature. We obviously won't agree on every point. That's the beautiful thing about our democracy. But if we keep talking, working together, we do succeed in making a better public education system for Lafayette and for Louisiana. So please stay, finish the food and drinks for us, and continue the conversation. We do have a tip jar here if you'd like to help this morning. Oh, Melinda? No?
Can we ask what media's here, so we'll know what to read in the paper or watch on TV?
Sure. It looks like Daily Advertiser, Acadiana Advocate. I think KATC was here earlier. And again, Acadiana Open Channel has been recording.
We're not media. I'm with American Rising LLC.
Okay. Well, thank you all. Please continue the conversation. We really enjoyed this morning. And
one more quick comment. May I please, since the Koch brothers are here? I want to thank all the legislators who are here, and Lottie Beebe and the folks who have been working. I remember when Lottie was elected to the Bessie board, she was the only voice of reason. And the longest she's up there, she continues to bring people with her. I think I heard that all you guys are running again for your office. I appreciate that because we have so few representatives and people who are strong enough from the start to stand up for what is right. I want all of you in this room to know that John Bell Edward was my candidate for governor before he even knew he was running. And if you have not had a chance to go to his website and listen to who this man is, I urge you to take that opportunity to do so. I do understand as well that especially here in Acadiana, this is kind of early for us to decide who we're going to vote for governor, but I urge you to go look. When you see what this man has done for his country and for our state, you will be where I am, believing that John Bell Edwards is indeed the best man for the job.
And John, I want you to know that personally I'm with you as well.
Right. And I don't see